check, check.
I hear you loud and clear.
Oh man, I see that stinking Negroni on your side table and am extremely jealous.
You can't have?
I could have if I had a fine gin, some Campari, nice ice cubes, and I had not just jumped off an Amtrak train. You want to know something about Amtrak, David
Tell me
Scales?
everything.
How often do you ride Amtrak?
Never, ever. I don't know if I've even been on one.
So I think Amtrak on the East Coast is a different thing. I think it is like an actual functioning, workable thing. I ride the train every week from Solana Beach up to Los Angeles's Union Station. It is the only train in the world that costs as much as like a lay flat to Dubai, uh, and also is perpetually late, and just junky. And I realized today, and I don't want to offend anybody. And listener, please call in and be offended here. But Amtrak to me is the personification or the distillation of what America
Ooh.
is versus what America thinks it is. It is a rickety, expensive thing that doesn't work. Like the fact that they cannot get the train to run on time here, it's never on time. It is never, ever, ever on time. Trains are like in India, the trains are on time. Germany, obviously, trains are on time. Everywhere that has trains, trains are on time. America, or at least West Coast, sorry, folks, we're following something and we don't know what's going on at this point. Is ridiculous.
There's no traffic. There's no need to stop. They blow through the stop lights and signs. So why are they late?
I think that Amtrak is bottom of the totem pole of, so there's one track and one track. There's one track south, one track north. And I think Amtrak is bottom of the totem pole of
Mm.
who gets to use that track. So if like any kind of freight train or anything is out in front of them, it's sorry, Amtrak, you're like, go kick rocks. But I don't know how anything goes late ever, unless even if something breaks down, you race the engine up there, you pull that thing off the tracks. Like it's ridiculous.
Well, the other thing is, my visions of traveling on the train is luxurious.
It's
Like you should have a dinner cart and be able to get a drink and that sort of stuff.
No, Amtrak is like a giant bus. They do have their snack cart, which does have canned margaritas and I think yeah, beers and cranberry juice and whatnot, right? But it's all such garbage. It is like utter
Yeah.
garbage. And so yeah, it's a real shame. Hate to crap on America coming out of the gates here, but welcome to
Well,
the grit.
when by the way, it is October 10th, 2024. You're Chess Smith. I'm David Scales. I do want to do some train travel in my life. I have like a romantic notion of it, but I want it to be like the Orient Express or
I'll,
something like that,
I'll tell you, I rode from Delhi. It was probably a solid 4 days straight. Delhi all the way up to some deep hill station. I can't even remember, like basically to Sri Lanka, running away from a film crew. We had a film crew who was wanting to do a project, and it turned so bad that Buddy and I said one day, hey, what you crew should do is go see the Taj Mahal. We're in Delhi. Have you guys ever been to the Taj Mahal? You guys should go see the Taj Mahal. They went to the Taj Mahal. We booked it to the train station and booked literally, didn't care, just the farthest away train. And so it was like a 4 day run. But in India, you book air conditioned first class, and it must not have been like I don't even know if you can get your own car. There's like four bunks in there, and there was two. It was like a dad and his daughter who we were sharing it with. But like dinner comes in, breakfast
Yeah.
comes in, lunch comes in. The whole thing is like the Wes Anderson. I mean, it was that train. Yeah,
The
that's
Darjeeling
exactly how it
Limited.
feels.
I
Yeah,
loved
Darjeeling.
that movie.
Yeah. And that's what it is. Like that's your experience. That's what it is. That's how the train looks. Once you get up into the best part, you get up into, I think it's real Hindu land up there at some point where like, if I recall, if you touch any glass or any drinking vessel with an untouchable, Can't have that, right? Like the whole
Right.
caste system. And so they serve their tea in unfired clay cups. And so you go to hop off the train, there's the tea wallas all up and down. You grab your tea, drink your tea, super delicious, obviously, in this unfired clay that then you throw at the train to break it. Like,
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
because it just goes, it's just dirt. Back to
If
dirt
it,
it
well,
goes.
if it's unfired, wouldn't it dissipate into the tea?
It's like a one serving. And so I'm sure there's some clay sediment in there,
Yeah.
but who's gonna get hurt from drinking a little clay?
Yeah, it's just Earth, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Um, Another great film, um, set in India. It's called The Lunchbox. You'll have to search this one out, but it
Okay.
is amazing. It's a rom-com, not super calm, but a lot of rom. And it's the Lunchbox title is in reference to the Lunchbox system that they have.
Yes, exactly.
Oh my
Which is,
gosh, it's
oh,
insane.
I've seen the lunchbox. I've seen this. It's epic.
Yeah.
But it does, like, the best part about that film, I can't remember the romantic nuances, or vaguely I do. Uh, but the lunchbox system is what's essential in that movie, is learning that system because it's fully real.
So for people who aren't aware, it's it's like a catering service, but rather than having one big company with one big hub, it's just wives and mothers, the women of this super densely populated town who are cooking for their husband, but they'll cook a full family portion. And then they sell those lunches to workers. There's all these guys working telemarketing jobs or IT jobs for, remotely, or not remotely, but for other countries. So they work in these crazy big office buildings with 100 floors, 1,000 people on a floor, and they have lunch delivery, and the lunch delivery is literally coming from some residential address. But the complexity of it is taking the orders, getting the order to the right place, and getting payment to the right place. And it is as well organized as a colony of ants, basically. And Harvard Business School has even gone there to study it, to try to understand, because it wasn't some mastermind who was overseeing this thing who designed it. It just came together, building piece on piece on piece on piece. And it's all delivered by guys on bicycles who just strap together these intricate lunch, even the vessel itself that holds the different dishes, the lunch box, is really, really cool. And so they strap all those to their bicycles, go to an apartment building, go collect 30 lunches from 30 different women cooking, and then run it to the office building and distribute it to 30 different worker bees. It's incredible.
It's absolutely amazing. And that's literally part of how India is. India is that, this like honey, what, like a beehive of like that kind of stuff. And then it's also so dense. It's the only place, been a lot of places in this world. India is the only place that I wanted to just punch random people in the face. Like, you like get so tired of the human crush
Yeah.
and the, like, I don't know what it is specifically, but you go into like I mean, the human crush just gets you. Go into a convenience store or whatever, and I'm sure they do this too because they're just tired of getting asked stuff. But you'll ask the dude, "Hey, can I have a bottle of water?" And he'll do the Indian head bob. Nope. Uh, why? I don't have it, but I see it right behind you. I don't have it. I'm looking at it literally right behind you. I don't have it. Turn around before I lose my mind and get me that, please. I don't have it. And then they'll finally do it. Oh, yeah. Okay. Boop. And there you go. And then you're off right to the next one but just like,
Yeah.
it literally makes you want to, like, feel so much rage. It's just this guy who's trying to do his best working, but he's
Well,
not trying to do his best, but he's trying to do his best too.
and you're hot and it stinks. And
It
so
is
all of that puts
so
you on
hot
edge.
and
Yeah.
so crowded and so eggy.
Yeah, totally. I know you can't have a Negroni now, but did you have a couple on the train?
I didn't. I
Oh,
was
okay.
like,
I sensed a
so
little Negroni influence.
I stinking wish that I did.
All right.
I like got on the train and worked and then got off the train and ran here.
Well, let me tell you my variation on a Negroni because this is technically not a Negroni. I'm sh I think
Is
it
it
has a
not
name. What?
an Americano?
No. I don't, well, this is not an Americano either. This has a name, I think, but I don't know. I need to look it up basically. But instead of the gin component, I do tequila.
That's crazy town though. We just, for those who don't know, there's a sister show called Noble Rot, where David Lee Scales and I just 2 days ago discussed or touched upon the beauties of gin. I appreciate tequila, but a Negroni is so sacred to me. That's honestly how I fell in love with gin again.
Mm, I love a
Like,
Negroni too, but I like tequila. So I mix it up sometimes, is what it is.
so wait, it's tequila, Campari,
And vermouth, red, sweet
vermouth.
vermouth or red vermouth. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
it is
It's
a,
fantastic.
okay. Okay, I got to try this.
The other thing is tequila is the only alcohol that is an upper, not a depressant.
It's
So
healthy. As far as I've
exactly.
read, it is the tequila that's a, or the alcohol that's a vitamin.
So if you're gonna imbibe, but you want to consider your your mood and your health, go for the tequila
Tequila.
instead. Well, hey, to kick off the show, even though we're 10 minutes in, the boardroom show. I am headed down to the boardroom show tomorrow at 10 a.m. to set up. That is why we're doing the grit a day early, and it'll be probably an abbreviated show. You'll be down there on Saturday, I believe, or
The full
Sunday.
day.
Saturday, full day. Okay.
Clocking in. Does it open at 10? What time do doors open?
Doors open at 10.
Yeah, so I think I will literally be waiting outside at 10. Open, 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 waiting, and then pop in. And what time does it close?
I want to say 4 or 5.
I will be there till 4 or 5. I will be
Okay.
there from opening bell to closing bell and cannot wait.
So come and see us at the Del Mar Fairgrounds, the boardroom show, international surfboard show, open to the public. Tickets are $20, I think, at the door. And it's a who's who. Mr. Bob McTavish is the honoree for the Icons of Foam shaping competition. A who's who of shapers is going to be competing, excuse me, to replicate those boards, including Ryan Birch, the mystic Ryan Birch. You don't get to interact with him very often. Brit Merck, I was texting with today. He's coming down. He'll be in the Channel Islands booth. Devin Howard, Michael February will be there. I know Jim Banks is flying in for this event. So you get these iconic, old school, legendary shapers along with a who's who of the new guys.
I mean, you will catch Matt Biolos, and I feel it was last year that Matt Biolos, might have been the year before, debuted his cocaine cowboy look at the boardroom. So you'll catch whatever version of Matt Biolos's midlife crisis he's in. I feel he's in like a kind of slow moving midlife crisis. So you'll get to see it was legit. I think it was last year, wasn't it?
No, it's
Where
two
he
years
had
ago. Oh,
two
no, you're
years
right. It
ago.
was last year. It was
It
last
was
year.
last year where he had
Yeah.
like the full, like faded sunglass, like the, what's it called again? Not the, uh, it has a
What
name.
is that called? A gradient?
Gradient. The gradient lens, like dark brown to nothing, freshly frosted hair. I don't even know who frosts their hair anymore, but Biolas in his full midlife crisis he looked like he was honestly like just about to get arrested for being a mid to low level cocaine linchpin.
Well, I don't know where he goes from there because that was a great look for him. I don't think he can
So
upgrade.
was I mean, if he I'm worried that he just goes back to his roots, that he like kind
That'd
of
be
gets
a
a short
shame.
haircut and comes in with like a lost t-shirt and is just like, oh yeah, I'm middle-aged lost dude now, like
Clean,
all the other
clean
ones.
shaven
Yeah.
face.
No, I hope that he goes. I'm hoping that he took a little note from Brit Merrick and thought, psychedelia has a place for me too. I'm going to go grow my beard, get a little funky, listen to some Dead, see where that takes me.
Grow the hair out.
Yeah.
Can't let Brit dominate the beard.
No, no. Brit owns that thing in all shaping space. Does Brit Merrick own the best beard in shaping?
Um, he's a
I feel there's got
contender.
to be, you would know of all people.
I mean, I'd have to think about it. I'd hate to give a short answer, a quick response and get overlook somebody. Um, he's definitely a contender.
Yeah. I mean,
He's branded it. He's more front and center than anybody else. Let's put it
yeah,
that way.
yeah.
Well, so come on by. We will be or Chaz will be in the Weekend Vans booth interviewing people, of course. So come check that out. I got a stack of Veyer watches I'm going to bring by just to display, but we've got stickers. By the way, Chaz, I got a Veyer t-shirt for you right here. I've got that Mensel hat for you, probably a couple of other things to give
What
you.
the
So
what the heck? And yeah, I mean, there's swag for some people who drop by too, right? At least stickers and
for sure, stickers. Yeah.
not a
Um,
Veyer. Can we toss a Veyer to the crew?
they can buy a Veyer.
That's cool.
That's good
Buy a
enough.
Veyer.
And then lots of feedback last week about the flip flop rainbow talk. Uh,
Makes sense.
apparently, New Zealand has branded, they have their own brand that has become synonymous with the shoe itself, and that is called Jandal.
Which is crazy to me that you would brand like
You know
I
why
get
it's
it.
called? You know why? It's
Janky
similar
sandal.
to something you mentioned last
Oh,
week.
Japanese sandal, of course.
Japanese sandal.
Yeah,
That's why.
so the Kiwis just dodged the overt racist overtones and called it a jandal, even though it is just as racist.
Exactly. They
Yeah.
created a company with that name, so then it looks legit.
Yeah.
Everybody, of course, is saying it's just called a slipper.
It is not. You can I mean
I
that's
know.
was our precise thing is
I know.
yes, 1000 trillion% if you're in Hawaii and you're Hawaiian-ish. I'm not even going to say that John, etc. can call them slippas, right? If I don't even know about that, to be honest. I don't know that John, Nathan, and Ivan can call them slippas. They were born and bred on the islands. This is what makes Hawaii special, is that Kill Holiday is still a thing, and I don't know if you can do call them slippas as a straight haole, even born, bred, and raised.
Yeah. Well, I got lots of feedback on it. People feel strongly that should be, the island, Hawaii is so important and influential in surf culture that it should permeate into the mainland with this specific thing.
I completely understand that. But what I'm doing here and what we're doing, I feel, is protecting Hawaii from the stank of some South Carolina frat boy calling his flip-flops slippas. They
Yeah.
don't want that. They don't
Yeah.
like, they don't want that. They don't need that. That's what they're called there by them. Like,
All right.
again, as a applied linguistic master, it is important to hold space for this kind of stuff. You do not want that. You do not know what you're asking for at this point. You don't want anybody outside your zone calling it slippas.
Um, we'll hold the boundary at the borderline, at the edge of the island nation, then keep
But
it there.
also carving out the Florences because they're not allowed either.
Right, exactly.
And
And
Jamie O.
Let's throw Mark Healy in there too.
Yeah, and
Uh,
Jamie O.
let's move on to Florida. So Hurricane Milton made landfall last night. You posted a video of two surfers being interviewed by the local news, or not, I think it was national news, um, who are like, the hurricane's bearing down and they're like talking about going surfing. It was were those guys just posing as surfers?
I have to feel that they were going after the news. Somebody mentioned it in the, or more than one, I think, mentioned it in the Beach Creek comments.
Okay.
That it had to be a pose, right? They did not look like they were going between their boards and what they were wearing and how they looked. It fully looked like hey, we're gonna go pose. For sure there were surfers out, obviously. This is
Yeah.
no mystery that surfers go surfing pre-hurricane. But these two did not seem to be surfers at all. They seemed to
They
be influencers who were there to get the news hit.
it's so funny. Like we talk on here a lot about the do's and don'ts, of surfing, like and how you can identify a kook. And I do it jokingly, but it's accurate. Like it's
Yeah,
so you see those guys for a split second and you're
you
like,
know
they look like they're cardboard cutouts who just went and stood there waiting for the camera crew to walk by and ask them about surfing. The one dude holding his board upright looks like just like a jock. He's wearing like elastic band shorts, which is a kook and current.
yeah.
But he's holding his board, and the nose of it has electrical tape just wrapped around in such an unwieldy fashion. It's like bulky in some spots, not in another. I'm like, I've never in my life seen electrical tape used to tape a surfboard. And it also had so much tape on it that even if the nose was broken off completely, you wouldn't need that much tape. So I don't know
No,
what that was about. The other guy holding his surfboard properly, but had his leash strung over his shoulder. I've never seen anybody hold a leash over their shoulder in my life in 30 years of surfing. And their manner of speech, of course, didn't make any sense at all. It was just like, it was hilarious.
it was absolutely amazing. And the fact that hurricane landfalls in Florida now not only breed, of course, right? Like there's no like surfer, you go surf. Like obviously, there's especially in those zones, like I think they were in Naples, which is not like
So
that
their
Gulf.
Gulf Coast.
Yeah, it's not a wave rich
Yeah.
stretch, right? Like you, but also there was it in Pensacola, the footage from Helen? Was it Helen? Yeah,
Uh,
the one before.
yeah. Helene or Helen was the one before, but I didn't see footage of Pensacola.
Epic. There was like I think it was Pensacola, and it was just like groomed,
Oh,
like
yeah. I saw
just
Sterling Spencer post a couple of clips,
freight
actually.
trains coming through,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where that's what you get. And so obviously, but those dudes in this video were not surfing that, nor were they doing, they weren't even wet. Like if I
They were
like I
wet
think
from
they
the
were,
rain, maybe.
yeah, from the, but they were standing on the beach waiting with boards, waiting to get interviewed, and got there, yeah, 15 minutes.
It was hilarious. I
Yeah.
feel like they were trying to be the next like wapa guy or
Yeah.
whatever.
I
Um,
don't think it worked. I don't think there was
no,
quite enough there.
it was only funny to you and I. I mean, it wasn't
Yeah.
funny to the mainstream media, mainstream public, you know?
It's still funny to me though that the news reporter will try to get the like have these news reporters never seen anything in their lives in terms of hurricane surfy kind of stuff because there's still this real gotcha moment of like, well, you're putting everybody in danger by being here, aren't you?
Mhm.
Like where it's like, oh my goodness. Yeah, I mean maybe those two were, but
Yeah,
yeah, typically
those two were
no.
for sure.
Yeah.
Those guys would have drowned if they would have paddled out. Speaking of Florida, of course, I'm going to the Florida Surf Film Festival. I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, but in November, they've got the Westerly doc is Jamie Brisick's Westerly doc is finally seeing public. I know that's been in the works for a decade. Jamie will be there. There's a current documentary that'll be there, and then Tom Curran himself is going to be playing with his son in a musical set. Are you
Jazz Odyssey.
are you going to make an attempt? Have you looked
I
at your calendar?
I've talked about making an attempt on our last podcast, and I have yet to reach out, but I'm going to reach out after this podcast and continue to try to make an attempt.
It's a quick trip. I'm going out. I'm flying out Thursday and coming home Sunday.
Yeah.
So come
Boom,
if you can.
boom. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna play a call for you. It's a controversial call, but I've been dying to talk about it. I'll see if you could take if I can talk you into taking the bait on answering the actual question.
Calling in for the grit, David and Chaz. Here's a question that I have for you two, and I'm surprised this hasn't been 47 Beach Grit articles at this point. Who do you think, if any, professional surfers or surf adjacent people will be tied up with this whole Diddy scandal? I mean, if a list comes out and names drop and there's a surf star in there, how are we going to feel about them? Kelly Slater, maybe Taj Burrow back in the day was always considered to be the party boy. Maybe surfer turned DJ Paul Fisher. You know, that's, I guess, the most likely. But, yeah, how would you feel? How would we all feel if old Kelly was at a freakout party? Would it change your opinion of the greatest competitive surfer of all time if he was, you know, getting weird with Diddy? Anyway, my thoughts this week. Big topic around the water cooler at work. Cheers. Yeah, keep up the work.
First of all, it's freak off, not freak out.
It's a freak off, is what Diddy held. And I'm happy to take this bait right here. You know which surfer was invited to a freak out?
Who?
Nobody. You want to know why?
Oh,
That's how backwater surfing is even Kelly Slater never was invited to a Diddy party. He might have been invited to like a Hamptons one at some point when he was dating Pam or something, but nobody was ever like, let's get Kelly Kelly's looking like he wants to get lit tonight. Let's bring Kelly in. He would have been the only one who touched enough fame appeal. This is where surfing's at, and nobody moving forward. Like, surfing is a backwater of nerd stuff, and love it, funny, but it's nerd stuff.
Okay, I get where you're coming from. I want to throw out one caveat before I get you to commit to somebody's name. For the record, let's keep the sex trafficking, the drugging of people, the holding them hostage, all of that is relegated just towards Diddy and his inner circle. I'm under the impression he was having these big parties, you know, where everybody
Yes.
shows up and that's where they get their photos taken. And
The
then,
white parties were, I read about them regularly. Like, I was
right.
fully aware of Diddy's white parties. Like, wasn't on the
So,
circuit, but was like, it made mainstream news yearly.
so in this game, somebody that we can name may end up getting an invite into that.
No,
But that party ends, and then Diddy and his close crew carry on for 4 days with all the stuff that he's being accused of. So if we were to mention somebody's name and they're only included in the white party that they had no idea, let's say, about the sex trafficking part. But under that scenario, let me throw out a few names because he said surfing or surf adjacent. What about the Hemsworth brothers who surf? What about Jonah Hill, who's done a movie with Diddy and he surfs? What about Laird Hamilton, who lives in Malibu, who's probably been in the same room as Diddy at some point? DJ Paul Fisher is a great call.
I feel that the Diddy party had waned enough where, and sure, maybe some of these guys had been like, every name you named might have graced a Diddy party at some point as like a fourth tier in the like outer. I mean,
Yeah.
Laird probably would have got in, but Diddy would have known. Like, all these
He's not
guys would have been.
invited to the after party. I'm not, yeah.
Nobody's getting to the after party, but
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying is these guys are so our greatest, brightest, biggest stars are such nobodies.
Yeah.
And I feel sad about saying this, but are such nobodies that don't even get into the fourth tier of the Diddy party. Like, we got Leo DiCaprio and Toby Maguire in tier one. Maybe they're getting freaky off. We've got, I mean, start going down the list of your like B and D actors and F actors, and surfers are somewhere below that. They might have got
Yeah.
invited because somebody knew them or the publicist knew them and threw them an invite. But as soon as like they're like, oh, that's one too many drinks for you, right? Like, the only one I could see getting freaky offy, I mean, I can't say, uh, but
Bruce
it's
Irons.
the ones I see getting freaky offy. I'm gonna say it wouldn't be Jamie O'Brien, it would not be Ben Gravy, but it would be one of the lower tier YouTube surfers. I could see being like, yeah, 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 and like a 𝐒𝐿𝐴, for example. Let's just throw out an example.
He would there, but then there's no chance he would be in that echelon. Like
That's what I'm saying.
I mentioned Bruce Irons because he could have a connection to that world in some way. You know what I mean? Like,
You'd
J-
like to think, and he for sure does, but not the connection that gets him. Like, that's where we are, and we love to think as surfers. And so every surf, I'm not going to say fan, but surf watcher out there should quickly disabuse themselves of the notion that surfers mean anything to anyone. The idea of surfer does, right? Like, if you're at a party and you say, I'm a surfer, even if you're at a Hollywood party and you meet a Hollywood celebrity and say, I surf, and they say, yes, that's great. They don't know anyone or care anything about it.
um, I am so interested to see how this Diddler story develops. Like,
Who's getting burned on this one?
I think it's gonna have a long tail. You know what I mean? Like, I think this stuff, and they've even said, of course, there's A-list names who are going to be indicted in this. They're just collecting enough evidence to actually make the indictment. But if they make that indictment, it means they're guilty. Like, they're not going to, there's so much at risk for the DA or whoever's prosecuting that against these A-listers who have all of the, of course, money in the world to fight the case that they will sue for defamation. So they're not going to indict unless there's hard evidence.
Video. But you read
Yeah,
about the
exactly.
videotape of Diddy that was getting shopped, of Diddy having love with a A-list male that was a bigger name than Diddy.
Yeah. So it's very enticing to me. Like, I want to know all of it. I'm really curious to see how it all plays out. But what I also think is funny is I'm not surprised. Like, when the
No.
allegations came out, I mean, I know there was like a little bit of a slow roll for a month or two leading up to it, but even that first story, I'm like, I'm not surprised that any of this is true. I was shocked when that dad from Seventh Heaven got busted for pedophilia. Remember
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Or even when Cosby got
Yeah.
busted for what he was doing. And I don't think he actually got
Mugging women.
busted. He just got outed. But I was surprised by those. Like, America's dads, that's what they're known for. And then they get busted. I was shocked. And I was
Yeah.
younger at the time, so maybe I was more naive.
What
But
about
when
Garth Brooks? Were you shocked with the Garth Brooks allegations? I don't know if
what's
they're
the
true.
allegation? I don't know what
Oh,
that is.
Garth Brooks is getting he has an accuser accusing him of rape or whatever. His
Like,
hairstylist.
when he was currently married, or like
Yeah,
20
like
years ago, or
from a couple years ago. Who knows what it is? But that's all the big news now. Garth Brooks getting rolled.
I think I would be. So I'm a little bit surprised by that. Not
Yeah.
super surprised. I don't really know Garth Brooks' persona that well, but did he? I'm like, didn't he, like, wasn't he involved in killing Tupac? And like, there's all these other stories, that it's like, he's not the picture of, he's not the model of morality or ethical behavior. Like, I'm pretty sure all of his songs are about exactly what he's doing, right? Like, it's not, you shouldn't be surprised.
I mean, the like Hollywood A-list celebs like fleeing for the hills in terms of, oh yeah, I never went to a Diddy party, or I went and would always leave early. Like they're the public statements, uh, where yeah, I guess the ones who are smart enough to know I shouldn't do that, I shouldn't go to that, are probably really feeling pretty smug at this point, as they should, are feeling like I knew something was stinky with those things. Everybody's talking about them. Everybody was gone. It was all the thing to do. Where, like, as our parents all told us, if your buddy jumps off a cliff, are you going to jump off a cliff too? Like, those who decided not to jump off this cliff should probably honestly feel good about themselves.
Well, especially if you know that your buddy has a parachute and he has 1,000 acolytes standing at the bottom of the cliff who are willing to let him fall on top of them so that he doesn't get hurt, and they're going to cheer him on along the way, and they're going to drug him. Like, he's untouchable, or he was untouchable for so long. Nobody ever told him no. So you can just indulge and indulge and indulge, and you're just thinking you're living in such an alternate reality that how else could it end? Like, it
But
has to go down that devolution.
the bigger question is, like, in this, which sport ranks highest for bad people at Diddy parties? I'd say probably NBA or NFL. Obviously, those are the biggest sports, right? But where surfing ranks? Like, are there are there badminton players getting dirty at Diddy parties ahead of surfers? Like, where, even though surfing brands and bills itself as, I mean, maybe not so much anymore, but as like sexy and desirable and all this, like, where do surfers at Diddy parties rank
I'll
compared
tell
to professional bowlers?
I'll tell you who missed their opportunity.
Taj.
Tim Elter.
Yes.
Do you know Tim Elter?
He was the kicker?
No, he's a surfer. He was a German surfer in the Olympics
Oh,
this year in Tahiti,
yeah.
whose pants he mooned the camera. His board shorts came down as he was duck diving, and there's a shot of his butt,
Yes.
his white butt. So here's why. Because from every Olympics, there is a super hot volleyball chick
Yeah.
or a long jumper, or a dude whose schlong hits the pole as he's, whatever that was. Vault?
Pole vault.
Pole vault. Uh, there's one guy or girl or both who come out of the Olympics that become like, oh my God, that person is gorgeous. That person is stunning. And then they get a bunch of endorsement deals, or a few for a couple of years. So if you say, was there ever a badminton player that made it to a Diddy party? Maybe in the 1998 Olympics. There was a badminton player who was smoking hot, and Diddy offered that invite at a party 6 months later.
Yes.
Tim Elter had his opportunity. He should
missed it.
have done what the pole vaulter did, or the sexy guy who, took off his glasses and did that one thing.
Yeah.
Like, he could have leveraged that to go to a freak off if he really played his cards right.
He would have been the one surfer at a freak off.
Yeah, exactly.
A freak out. Yeah.
A freak out. Right. Okay. Well, curious to see how this story develops. And by the way, if you do want to write any Beach Grit articles about this, you'll be glad to know I saved the Diddy imagery from his Instagram account from when he was wearing a wetsuit and a surfboard and pouring Ciroc out on the beach and dancing around during the sunset.
Thank you. Tomorrow's lead.
Okay, you got it. All right. Big surf news. Should have led with this.
Huge surf news. No, we got to warm the people up.
The tour, WSL Tour for 2025 is set in stone, and it's presented by Qantas. And as our 6 qualifiers coming off of the CS series, 3 men, 3 women are officially qualified for the 2025 tour.
Wait, I thought that what's it called was still going, Sakurema, to lock in. Is it done?
No, there will be 10.
Okay.
10 men and
So
5
some
women,
are
but
locked in.
3 men and 3 women are mathematically locked in. Yeah. So the 2025 tour schedule sounds like Pipeline, Surf Abu Dhabi, which is the wave pool, Paniche, Punta Roca, El Salvador, Bells Beach, Snapper Rocks, Margaret River, Trestles, Sakurema, Jeffreys Bay, and then Chopu and Cloudbreak. And the cut, importantly, comes after 7 events instead of 5 events this year. Sunset is notably gone. Lowers is added to the main season. Snapper is back, and Cloudbreak is officially finals day.
And J-Bay is back too. Let's not forget. But so I saw this today, like everybody else, and I thought, there's some good, there's some bad, right? Like, you have some welcome additions, you have some unfortunate cuts. I feel Sunset is I liked watching Sunset, right? It was a different kind of wave that required a different kind of surfing. And I feel up until probably this season, to be honest, what the World Surf League has kind of done, up until finals day, really, but also you really had to test yourself in a lot of different conditions.
Good point.
With the lack of, or with Sunset coming off, I feel they've taken kind of open ocean, unruly waves away entirely, which is a whole. I mean, I guess you still have Margaret theoretically, but
Margaret's a lesser version of Sunset in that respect.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt that was a bummer, but what I mostly thought as I read through it is, we have the World Surf League clearly, let's just be honest, trying to sell to a Middle Eastern oil-rich kingdom. This is by far and away, ever in the history, maybe even of sport, the most fuel-hungry tour. We're flying our athletes from Hawaii. There's no way you can get further away from Hawaii than Abu Dhabi. That's where we're going to fly the entire tour, from Hawaii to Abu Dhabi, where we're going to run them in a fossil fuel powered pool.
In the desert.
In the desert. You watch the way this thing bounces. The only time that it makes kind of ecological sense is when it's in Australia, when you're Bell, Snapper, Margaret.
Yeah.
Otherwise, this thing is ping-ponging around the world. Like that. I mean, I would love for a scientist to figure out the fuel cost of this tour compared to any other tour, because I think this thing is like X10 over any other tour in the history of surfing.
It's presented by Qantas.
Exactly. So you got Qantas, and clearly appealing to, but if the World Surf League dares say anything green this year, I mean, I know they will, and I'll wait for it, and then I will deeply shame them. But are you kidding me? In terms of, they're not even trying. They're not even remotely trying to fly it like, okay, let's go from Hawaii, well, wow, Hawaii, we can go to Chopu, right? And like that's whatever. And then we can go to Australia. Like, let's go around and let's claim we're being green by cutting emissions, by making this thing make sense in terms
Yeah.
of the travel. This is a slap in the face of any kind of greenwashing ever done.
Yeah. Well, the can you hear my dog?
No.
Oh, okay, good. Um, I can hear my kids screaming at the same time, but it sounds like he's having a good time about my
Okay.
dog barking. He's not
Oh,
concerned.
sweet.
The I'm not concerned. Like, I get what you're saying is that it's hypocritical of WSL. I personally don't take umbrage with that. I want to see them run the best wave in the best waves in the world. There's some good waves on this tour. I agree. I'm bummed that they did not have sunset on the tour. And of course, I'm bummed that they have the wave pool. But I think in general, it's a move towards the correct direction to get the best surfers in the best waves. The weird thing is the cut being after event 7 instead of event 5. I saw almost unanimous feedback from fans approving that idea. They're like, "Oh, fantastic! That gives rookies a better chance of getting their feet, underneath them. Gives people a better chance to kind of accumulate more diverse options and more time to qualify for the tour." I was like, the back half of the tour is far better than the front half of the tour because it's a smaller tour. Like, we
Yeah.
don't need more bigger tour. We need more lesser, short, smaller tour. So I thought that was kind of a weird consensus to see of feedback, but
It's insane to me, kind of. I mean, once you introduce the mid-year cut, right? And not that I want to steal bread from young professional surfers' mouths, but I guess I do. Uh they should start the number of mid-season cut surfers, and then back half of the tour should be finals days. They should
yeah,
be, I mean, basically 1 day tours, or maybe 2 days, I guess. Like, they don't
yeah.
have to be actual final days, but like stinking 10. Like, who are the 10 best? Who needs nobody? And we've talked about this ad nauseum. Very, 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 very few surfers on the bottom end are going to shock you with their ability. Now, let's be quite frank. This past year, we had Colapinto's brother. What's
Yeah.
his name?
Crosby.
Crosby. Rookie of the year. Great performance. Uh, did you need to see Crosby Colapinto surf more?
No.
Exactly. Like, even the best of a rookie crop, it's cool, and bring him on next year at the whatever, but it's just bloated. It is bloated, and I don't need to see much more of this. And I mean, who's coming on the list? The
That's
girls
the
is
thing.
exciting. Who's coming on? I mean, except for Sally Fitz, love you, great job. I don't know what you're doing here still, but the dude side, what? There's like the
So
Sammy Pupo and the ones who have been like through it time and time. There's no surprises. There's nothing that I'm waiting for. Like, every year with football, basketball, baseball, you have rookie sensations who come out and blow expectations and crush, right? Like Jackson Merrill for the Padres, rookie of the year candidate, is raking, I can't even remember what, like 21-year-old, nobody expected anything like this. This happens every single year, multiple times. I cannot think, I can remember Idolo kind of blowing minds. I don't even know if he did that as a proper rookie or as like his second or third year, but
Gabriel Medina won a couple events in his
Gabriel
rookie year.
Medina as
Yeah.
a rookie. But this is like 15 years ago that
Right.
I like that a rookie came out of the gates and exceeded expectations and like blew doors on veterans.
I,
We all know exactly who is going to be in contention at the end, minus one or two names. Like, you swap them out, right? You swap an
right.
Ethan Ewing out for a who? Like a
Jack
whatever,
Robinson.
a Jack Robinson. Like, exactly. And same diff. There's only going to be 10 options at the end.
Yeah, it's funny when you see these news press releases that come out, they've got a splashy graphic and they're, like, boom, we're dropping this on you. And so I feel a certain amount of excitement and I am going to watch, but it's all it's not exciting at all. Like even the tour, the schedule that we discussed, it's kind of like it's not really that interesting.
I mean,
The requalifiers that you're talking about, for the record, the men have all been on tour before. Sammy Pupo, Ian Gouveia, Alejo Muniz. Again, there will be 7 additional ones, but these are the 3 that have already qualified. Alejo, we saw plenty of when he got bumped off 5 years ago. Same thing with Ian Gouveia. Sammy, there's a little bit of interest there. On the women's side, Sally Fitzgibbon's been on forever. Isabella Nichols was on, I think, twice. Maybe she fell off twice. Bella Kenworthy's the new addition. But to be honest, I've seen her surf in the junior stuff. She's not as exciting as, some of the other names in the young women coming up. So there is no excitement for me.
here's the thing, and I don't mean to be rude. If you and I stop podcasting tomorrow, if Beach Grit went away and I wasn't doing that anymore, I would absolutely not watch professional surfing. I would be like, goodbye. Not that I dislike it. My interest in it is more about this community than
Yeah.
it is about what I'm watching. Like, I would not, they drop it and it's just not a league. It's not a sport.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, I've been saying this for a minute. I don't know. Whatever they're doing, they're doing. I'm not going to talk about the business model. What would make me interested is what I would watch, even if we weren't podcasting and Beach Crit was dead, is this slam kind of series, is 4 of the best waves on earth with 10 of the best surfers on earth. I would watch that like it's going out of style. But a full drag out, like imagine waking up for Pipeline with a suspect, because it always is, you got too many surfers, so you can't just run on pumping waves. So with the probably, okay forecast, wake up and chewing through Ian Gouveia heats. How does that excite you?
No, I'm not watching that.
Yeah.
Definitely not watching that.
Which if the media is not watching this or not excited about it or only going to watch it because they have to, then I think World Surf League should look at that and think, okay, we've probably grown our things through leaning into social media and, we made it look good. We've really lipsticked this pig well. But let's be actually honest. Are the spike in view counts only us manipulating this thing, or are more people getting interested? I mean, which if they were going to have a honest conversation with themselves, I would think your increased views are only based upon you twisting the dials, not more people getting interested.
That's a great point. Well, we've already talked about it too much in that case. I mean, it wasn't the lead story. It's not that interesting of a story.
Yeah, the fact that imagine, I know when football or baseball, or I mean less baseball, but when college football or pro football schedules get dropped, everybody's onto it because it means something. This gets dropped and it's okay, cool.
Yeah, completely.
Bored already.
Well, Pros in the Wild from last week, talking about the pooper, the guy who pooped in front of Tom Curran. And I was like, at the end of that, I was like, are these stories now feeling a little bit far-fetched? You and I got a voice note from Mark McInnes in the Pacific Northwest, who called into question a previous Pros in the Wild, which was about the Misto pro who showed up at some Pacific Northwest beach, paddled out when none of the other local chargers would, and just got flogged and ended up coming in having not caught a wave. And Mark was like, dude, that story sounds fake to me. He's like, unless the reader intentionally smoked screen Pacific Northwest and it was actually somewhere else, maybe it's California, because he's like, I know any big wave spot in Oregon and Washington that can hold that size of swell. And here's the problems with that story. So Mark kind of picked that one apart. And then I, of course, called into question the last one, but I got an email back from the guy who called in the last one. And he said, hey guys, my poop in the wild with Tom Curran is 100% true. I am safe from any and all karmic negativity. I am also well and truly blessed karmically because it can only be a good thing to be spreading stories about our heroes. And growing up in Goleta, Santa Barbara, I have plenty more. Your doubts about the veracity can only arise from how epic it is, and I understand that. Your suggestion that I might be subject to karmic retribution, however, is an interesting proposition, and I'm going to turn it back on you both. You might have some Tom Curran-based karma coming your way. Brace yourselves. You see, my story about Tommy body surfing in a deserted and freezing cold morning in trunks in the dead of winter was in the lead for the best pros in the wild last year and would have won me a surfboard. It was genre defining. But alas, you had a rare guest on the show and they just picked whatever was the last story he heard and he thought that it was the best one. I forget who he was, but he had a full-on golden retriever chasing a ball type vibe about each story. So the vote went to a Laird story because it was the most recent one. Laird over Tommy. You might consider making a candle out of surf wax and burning it at a shrine. I'd for sure say a prayer or two, or better yet, let's just settle the karmic balance issue and send me a new surfboard.
Done and dusted. Come to the boardroom. If you're slick-handed, you could probably walk out with one.
Do you remember? So I didn't realize this. He was the one who told a story a year ago about Tom Curran body surfing in
which was
the middle
an
of
epic one,
winter.
but who did we have pick the best?
I think the
Who's
story
the
that
cool
won was Laird doing the helicopter spin on the nose of the surfboard.
Which was an epic story, though.
Yeah.
Let's just be frank about how great that story was. But who's the golden retriever?
Was it Devin?
I mean, it makes sense that it was Devin, but Devin doesn't have golden retriever vibes.
I don't know. I don't remember who picked the winner, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't either.
We
I can't
that's
remember that
a
we had
that's the
something
thing that
picked.
listeners don't realize, or maybe they do realize. We roll week to week to week to week to week and have other shows and other jobs going on at the same time. I forget what we said the moment we shut off the mics. Already forgotten what we said at the beginning of the show. The moment we shut off the mics, I forget. And then for the next week, I get a bunch of DMs that are like, "Hey, man, I wanted to, disagree with the point that you made about this." And I'm like, I don't remember that conversation, much less saying it.
When I get the DMs, I do remember, and then I'm like, oh man, I should have thought that out better. Like
I feel that way.
I was wrong. And I mean, like, I don't always, but often I feel, I went but that's how else are you going to do this show without going straight shooting from the hip?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm just trying to explain the flubs along the way.
Yeah. But also, great story. Poop. Tom Curran was, again, a top, it's in the running this year. Along with whatever I put as number one last week.
That's Eric and SB. I forgot to say his name, but yeah, for the record, I knew even when I called into question the validity of the story, I felt bad saying it because I knew that I was talking about him. I didn't think that he was lying. I was just making a general statement. So
I do feel, though, because I forgot about the McInnes call too, where I feel like that was because Mark did a very good job
point by point
poking holes in that story.
He was like, in that story, there was a dirt road and then there were sand dunes. There's a dirt road at this place, but not at a place with sand dunes. There's sand dunes at a place that has big waves, but not big enough to warrant a life jacket, or whatever. Like he had I didn't want to play his call because I think he said one or two things that he said, don't air this.
Yes.
Just off the record stuff. But anyways.
On the side of caution. Abundances of caution here.
Again, yeah. And thank you, everybody, for your contributions because that's what the show is built around. Let's go, in the interest of our family wanting our attention this evening at 6:40 at night. Let's go to commercial break, and then we will be back with Barrel or Nah. All right, Chaz, I'm back. Barrel or Nah.
Exciting.
I got this long, meandering call on the listener line that I'm not going to bore you with. You know what? Let me take that back. It's not boring.
Yeah.
But it was meandering. I could have edited it down, I suppose, and played it for you. It was around the topic of amuse-bouche. He's like, man, I gone to a couple fancy restaurants. They give us this amuse-bouche. Like, what the hell's with amuse-bouche? All this question about. But the two examples he referenced were both cold soups. He said one was a tomato
Yep.
cold soup. And I'm like, well, that's called gazpacho. And then he's
Gazpacho.
like, the other one was a melon cold soup. And I didn't like that one either. So I just thought a better barrel or not is cold soups.
I'm gonna go no barrel, David Lee Scales. I'm going to go no barrel. I've had the gazpacho. I've had as like a tiny thimbleful, as an amuse-bouche, definitely as a palate starter or whatever, like palate exciter. I don't even know. Great. A spoon of cold soup. A bowl of cold soup? Are you kidding me? Absolutely not. No barrel, not even in the fanciest iterations of it.
It's a great point. So maybe his call was valid and I should have played it because you're right. Well, first of all, let's back up. He was not into the amuse-bouche and the whole concept of it. I disagree with that. The amuse-bouche is great, right?
It's the whole thing. I mean, even that it's yeah, a little thing that's fun from the like it excites your mouth, right?
Exactly. That's what it literally translates to. But you nailed it in that it's something that should not be a main course. And
No.
a cold soup, you don't need a full bowl of. You don't even need a cup of it. You
You need a
need
spoon.
a shot glass of
Yep.
it or a spoonful of it. And so there are certain things. Caviar is that way, where it's like, it's great in a small quantity. And so the amuse-bouche is perfect because it titillates the palate. You kind of get excited for what's next, but you don't want a second bite of that thing.
Except for I will definitely with cold soups, I will caviar, a good caviar. I could eat by the bowl. When you get a good caviar on like a or what do they call it? The little
Bellini.
Bellini. I was gonna say Bellini, but then I thought, isn't that the drink?
Well, Bellini,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Bell is the drink.
Yes.
Bellini, as the little pancake, is just Blini.
So
So
good.
one is Bellini and the other one's Bellini.
The Bellini with sour cream and caviar and what like the fixins when you get a good like sturgeon caviar. Oh man, I could eat those like French onion dip.
Yeah, it should be creme fraiche,
Yeah, creme
not
fraiche. Sorry,
sour
not
cream.
sour cream. Sorry, sorry,
And
sorry.
oh,
Was
yeah,
getting my French onion dips mixed up with my caviars.
that's true. Yeah, no, I've never been in a setting where I could have a bowl full of caviar, to be honest. The only caviar I've had is in some sort of a dinner party, not a dinner party, like a catering type thing where it's not 𝐒𝐿𝐴𝐶. It's like California sturgeon or something like that. Or I would on a special, for Valentine's Day or something, I'll get an ounce of it, of the 𝐒𝐿𝐴𝐶, the good stuff. But even then, it's like I can only have a couple of little mother of pearl spoonfuls, but not an actual full serving.
Okay, still have your tinned can of foie gras straight from France that's coming to boardroom to you.
Oh,
Uh,
sweet. Thanks.
Next thing is going to be I'm going to get you a tin of great caviar that where you're not thinking about it by the cost per ounce, where you're
Yeah.
just going to be think about how much can I spoon on my eggs because
Okay.
caviar goes with everything.
Because I do like it. So I don't know, maybe I talked about it audibly one time out loud. And so Instagram started feeding me like there's a bunch of caviar companies now that are like direct to consumer and you can get good quality for cheap. But I've not had an occasion to actually pull the trigger and try them. But I'm curious now. Like, can I buy 5 ounces of caviar now and I afford it and they send it right to my door and I can eat it with regularity?
It's so good. It
Yeah.
is really so good. I don't do that, but when I do have the good caviar, I wish that I did.
Yeah. Okay. So in the spirit of reciprocity, I have my favorite potato chip and I have foie gras flavor. I'm going to put it in your box over here to give you at the boardroom show.
Boom. Okay,
Okay.
we're gonna have a foie gras exchange.
They're so good. Okay. Barrel or non number two, having a TV in your bedroom.
Barrel. Like, I get the whole thing about the bedroom's supposed to be sacred and you're supposed to read, talk if you have a TV or just gonna watch TV. Where else do you watch stinking TV? You get into bed, it's a long day. It's not time to be sophisticated at this point. You turn on your Netflix, you watch your show. It is fun, it's dynamic, it's interactive. I don't know any better way to watch TV than laying in bed. I don't watch
Wow.
TV, in fact, unless I'm laying in bed.
Do you prefer that over watching on a personal device?
Yes, by far. Like personal device, I mean I don't watch TV. I don't watch any sort of TV on any computer, phone, iPad, anything. I watch TV on a TV still. Call me old fashioned, but that's where I watch my TV. I don't stream anything on computer or phone or iPad.
Wow. Okay. I'm going no barrel. No barrel on TV in the bedroom. Total waste of the bedroom. When I go there, it's to go to sleep. You're asking where else would you watch TV? In the living room, in a social environment. Once I go to the bedroom, it's to sleep or not, but not to watch TV.
How are you gonna like nothing makes me happier, to be honest, at this point in my life. I mean, other things make me happier, but right at the top of the happy list is when my wife discovers a show that I don't like and she's watching it and I happily turn over and just shun it and go right to sleep. Feels so good.
Did you ever introduce her to I'm Sorry?
Yeah, I think we went through a whole season of I'm Sorry.
Good.
Yeah.
I think there's only 2 seasons.
Yeah, we cruised through the first season. Very funny.
Did she like it?
Yeah, I loved it.
It's so, so ridiculously good.
Yeah.
Okay, final barrel or nah. Taking a silent retreat.
I'm gonna go no barrel. I'm gonna say this is a straight luxury item. And if you're affording luxury items at this point, there's a lot better things than silent retreats. There is fancy other retreats. There is food retreats. There is go drink a lot. There's all kinds of better stuff. If you want to do a silent thing, that should be free. Like you should just go
That's
away for a minute and shut your mouth.
that's fair. So let's include that in this conversation because I'm not saying you pay to go do this thing. I'm just saying, a silent retreat, a retreat from life, a retreat from everything. And I'm going to argue the examples you gave, you're adding things on a food retreat, whatever retreat, you're spending money and you're adding. What I love about the idea of the silent retreat is it's an extraction from everything in life that we've added on. It's a distraction from the phone. Like the reason I even bring this up is talked about no showing for my Chris Burkhardt interview accidentally.
Yes.
He did a silent retreat recently. I think it was in Big Sur for like 3
He would.
days.
He would have. He's got the money.
And then I was talking to Scott Bass about Dave Rostovich and the electric acid surfboard test. And he goes, yeah, I went on a couple of surf trips with Dave Rostovich 20 years ago. And the funny thing about him was he doesn't talk on Tuesdays. He takes Tuesdays every week as a silent retreat. And he's with people. It's a surf trip. They're surfing together. He's having meals with them, but he doesn't talk on Tuesdays.
Yeah,
I was like, that's a badass move.
I'm gonna say both Rostovich and Burkhardt are assholes. They are rich assholes who can actually do that. Nobody else can do that. Like nobody who works a regular job. Like, so if you want a silent retreat as a normal blue collar person, guess what my silent retreat is? I drop daughter does now. It's when your kid gets into sports. You can stand on the sideline or in the lobby or whatever kind of activity they're doing and chat with parents, and that's great. And you come in for that. So she dances now, averages, I don't know, sometimes 8 hours a day, but I'm usually not there for 8.
Crazy.
But definitely 4 hours a day between the time we get there and the time I pick her up. So I will drop her off. I will take my book. I will go out in the car and have a 4 hour silent retreat. Like, I'll answer some emails, I'll do whatever. But there's ways to work silence into your life that doesn't inconvenience others, like Chris Burkhardt or Dave Rostovich.
So that was my thought when I put this in my notes and I thought through it on my own was I never want to be an alcoholic because I would have to give up alcohol.
Yeah.
like I like alcohol in certain scenarios. And so I don't want to have to just eradicate it from my life.
Yes.
And so I feel like that's an extreme move. So I'm going to moderate so that I can enjoy it in small portions. And that's kind of how I felt about the silent retreat was 3 days. But one Tuesday I could probably get away with. 3 days feels like torture. It feels like I'm trying to teach myself a lesson. And so can't I just distance myself from my phone and distance myself from people for a certain period every day And so I can live a balanced life on a day to day and not need to take a full, hard stance.
I'm telling you, the best thing is when Austin, whatever sport activity he discovers, because it's going to be something, it's going to be basketball, soccer, there's going to be something that horse riding, like there's going to be something that he gets into. That is the time as a parent, you take your silent retreat. You go say hi to the parents in the lobby. Hi, hi, hi. You retreat to the car. You kick open the door with a book. I've read so many books again. I bring a book and I sit there and read a book for a couple hours and it feels so good.
Yeah. So regular repetition in small doses
That's it.
instead of
And your
needing to
kids'
check out.
activity will provide that. You're going to be dropping them off for game, practice, whatever it is. And then you just don't hang out and chat with parents. Parents love to sit and chat. I love the parents. I love my ballet parents. We are family. But I drop off, do the rounds, leave, silent retreat, come back, hour early, watch, do the rounds again, and do the chat.
My other thought with Rasta was maybe he's faking it.
Yeah.
Because I
Part of his
like
brand.
well, no, yeah, that for sure. But then also I like the idea of everybody in my life thinking that I have one day where I'm not going to talk to you. And so
Yeah.
they leave me alone.
Yeah.
Like my greatest day is nobody bothers me
Yeah.
because, and it's funny, it's just a reflection of just getting too busy and having too many, things going on at all times. But I have a couple of different group text message threads that I'm on and I want to be on. I don't want to silence them because there is value there. But when I'm going through the busiest part of my day and they
there's just pop, pop, pop,
they
pop,
start
pop.
going off, I'm angry at every one of them. Even though they don't know I'm busy, they have no idea. But I'm like, I see it pop through and I'm like, you mother effer, don't you know that I'm busy? I can't be distracted by that popping up right now. Leave me alone. And so if I could just mandate, there's one day a week where you guys don't ever bother me and it can wait till tomorrow. Almost inevitably, everything in my life can wait till tomorrow. Leave me alone. That's all I need.
When this podcast gets big and famous enough, we can straight Rasta out. Until then, I'm telling you, your best bet is sitting in your car when your kid is playing activity.
Well, sounds like you're pro silent retreat then.
Yeah, it's good. Oh man,
For
if they
4
get
hours.
good at their activity, yeah, that's the thing. Like she's good at ballet. That means my silent retreats get longer and longer.
So she's like Rasta. She's got the talent. She can go on her own weekly silent retreat.
She doesn't get no stinking silent retreat. She's getting barked at by ballet instructors. I get the silent retreat on her back on
Yeah.
on the hard labor.
All right. Well, it's funny that the modern world doesn't even know what a silent retreat. Like, there's nobody listening to this right now who's like, I've been on a silent retreat. It is such a far-fetched concept in modern society.
But call in if you have. Would love to hear about your silent retreat.
I mean, that'd be interesting. If this becomes a theme like aqua dumping, and there's people who actually do this and benefit from it, I want to know. I feel like Tom Curran's been on a silent retreat.
For sure. Tom Curran, I feel, lives kind of a vague silent retreat.
Agreed. All right, Chaz, great to see you. I will see you at the boardroom show in 48 hours.
Which is great. Have a good trip down there.
All right, I will.
Staying?
And
you staying in the greater Del Mar region?
I am. Yeah, we got a hotel for 2 nights. Lauren and Austin are going to come down, I think, on Saturday, probably. Perfect. So we'll see them there. All right, I will see you then, and until next week.
Keep working.